This summer, when it comes to the center position, the Lakers really need to rock and roll. Or maybe they just need to Rocco and roll. Rocco Zikarsky. In today's video, let's talk about one of my favorite big man prospects in the 2025 NBA draft, Australian big man Rocco Zikarsky. Move over Jock Lawndale, there's a new mullet-headed Aussie in town that we need to talk about. So like, comment, and subscribe to this video, and let's get into the tape of Rocco's best attributes as a big man. First, before we dive into his game, let's get into Rocco Zikarsky's general player specs. Rocco is 18 years old, he will turn 19 years old in July. He comes from Australia and played in the NBL for the last 2 seasons with the Brisbane Bullets. And yeah, the first thing that stands out about this dude is the fact that he stands out. This dude is an absolute alien when it comes to his measurements. Rocco Zikarsky is 7'3" without shoes, so he's really going to be around 7'4", 7'5" whenever he steps out onto an NBA floor. He also has a near 7'5" wingspan, which is probably his most underwhelming measurement considering everything else. With that said, he did measure in with a 9'6" standing reach at the NBA Draft Combine, which was the highest standing reach in this year's class. Now, when it comes to the hotly debated topic about his weight, at the end of the NBL season, Rocco weighed in at 227 pounds, which is pretty frail for a 7'3" player. Having said that, at the NBA Draft Combine, he measured in at 257 pounds, packing on 30 more pounds of weight and muscle since the end of the NBL season, which is super important for such a tall, gangly big like himself. At the NBA Draft Combine in Chicago, he did surprisingly well in the agility drills for a big man. He completed the lane agility drill in 11.92 seconds, which was a faster time than other first-round prospect bigs like Maluak, Ryan Kalbrenner, and Derek Queen. In terms of his max vertical, Rocco outjumped prospects like Maluak, Vlad Golden, and Derek Queen, with a 31.5-inch max vert. So Sean Bradley and Boban Marjanovic he is not. In fact, he may actually be one of the most athletic and mobile 7'4", 7'5" big men in NBA history. Now, looking back at his time in the NBL, it's hard to really glean too much from his stats since he didn't really play all that much, and his season last year was cut short due to a knee injury, and he only ended up playing 18 games on 11.8 minutes per game. During that time, he averaged a modest 4.6 points, 3.4 rebounds, 0.6 blocks on 52% from the field and 57% from the free throw line. Per 36-wise, that comes out to a 14, 10, and 2 blocks per game sort of player, but again, you can't really glean too much from such a small sample size. So, having said that, let's just dive into some of the tangible aspects about Rocco's game that intrigue me the most. And first and foremost, I've kind of already hinted at it, but Rocco's speed, agility, and athleticism for a guy who's 7'5" is actually pretty uncanny. The way that he moves up and down the court, he's got more burst and speed than you would expect, and he looks much more fluid than you would expect as well, to the point where he seems like he's a more proportional 7-foot center instead of an outliery, gangly 7'5" one. And as opposed to bigs his size who are typically loafing giants, he's a pretty good transition player and rim runner as well. Offensively, his role is pretty straight cut and dry. He is a legitimate vertical lob threat in the pick and roll and a putback sort of player. When it comes to catching lobs and skying in for putbacks, he is very athletic and explosive, and he can get off the floor pretty quickly with some real flair. While his slighter frame can be a detriment in some very obvious areas, I think it's actually helped him be light on his feet and more explosive off of the ground. Kind of in the same way we've seen frail unicorn bigs like Chet Holmgren and Kristaps Porzingis be unexpectedly explosive. Rocco also has some surprisingly pretty powerful jams at the rim. He goes up with real force and power at the rim and has got some pretty nasty one-handed putbacks, one-handed poster jams on guys, and some strong rolling two-handed jams as well. And because he's so damn long, it almost doesn't matter where you throw the ball up to or whether he's fighting against a more physical, bigger big who's pushing him out of the paint. Rocco is going to find a way to snatch the ball out of the air with his long-ass wingspan, guide the ball in, or hammer it down. But yeah, in summary, on the offensive end of the floor, Zikarsky is a dynamic, quick-twitch finisher at the basket who can Rocco the rim. Now, when it comes to his offensive weaknesses, he's pretty limited in all areas. He can't handle the ball, he looks clunky in the post, he can't create his own shot, he doesn't really have any natural passing instincts and feel, and most importantly, he can't currently space the floor. Having said that, and I know these are famous last words, but Zikarsky has actually shown off a pretty fluid-looking three-point shot with sound mechanics in his recent draft workout videos, which, again, I know bigs like Mitchell Robinson have shown off this skill as well in the past, and every NBA prospect looks like a knockdown three-point shooter in practice. But look, if Zikarsky ever does space the floor, we at the very least have some early evidence to point to, because his shot looks smooth, there's no hitch, and he's a lefty, which I don't really know what that means, but everything you own in the box to the left. Hey folks, welcome to the halfway point of this video where I remind you guys via my mediocre, rapidly aging mug that I am in fact not just an AI voice, but a real human being who could use your support via a like, a comment, and a subscribe. So thank you guys in advance, and with that said, back to the Rocco tape. Alright, so now let's talk about Zikarsky's defense. Right now, I think his biggest strength is the fact that he's, well, very big and very tall. Again, he had the highest standing reach at the NBA Combine and will naturally be able to bother players' shots by simply raising his gangly arms. And when you combine his length with his surprising pop off the floor, he's a pretty solid shot blocker, especially as the weak side help man. And even though he didn't play all that much in his 2 seasons in the NBL, he does have a plethora of highlight reel blocks where he skies in, meets players at the rim, and violently swats the ball away. If you show him the ball too early in space, he's going to attack you head on and send that ish back pretty emphatically. And because he's got better mobility than expected, he can backpedal, shadow a ball handler, then rotate back to his man and block their shot without expending too much effort. So he's not a super slow Vucevic-like loafing reactor on the defensive end of the floor. And at the end of the day, given his quick twitch athleticism, his fundamental sound shot block timing, and his outlier measurements, you just hope that he continues to grow in his overall defensive awareness, because if all those things come together, he could one day be a very elite shot blocker and rim protector. Now, quite obviously, his biggest weakness and problem on the defensive end of the floor is and was his slight frame. At 227 pounds, he could easily get bullied around the paint and out-physicaled, especially when you keep in mind that he wasn't even playing against NBA-level athleticism the last 2 years. And despite everything I said about his mobility and agility, he does struggle to guard players on the perimeter and in space, and has to do a better job of containing ball handlers and stopping them from getting to the basket in the first place. Now, sometimes, even if he gets beat to the basket, because he's so long, he can still recover pretty well. He's a little JaVale McGee-ish in that respect. But yeah, he's definitely got some defensive things to clean up, especially in space, because right now, he kind of still looks like a bumbling giraffe. Having said that, him gaining 30 pounds in the last 3 months is already a great step in the right direction, and at the end of the day, he's still very young. He's still only 18 and will only be 19 by the time the season starts next year, so he has a lot of time to grow. Now, when it comes to NBA comparisons, on the low end of the spectrum, he kind of reminds me of a taller Kyler Kelly. They both have the same skill sets and the same sort of vertical lob threat shot blocker profile, and yeah, I guess they're both white as well. On the median end, I've already mentioned this player in this video, but I could see Rocco being a less explosive JaVale McGee type. And on the higher end of things, if his defensive awareness continues to grow and he continues to get stronger, I kind of feel like he could be a Rudy Gobert type player if he truly reaches his ceiling. But yeah, those are pretty lofty expectations, so for now, let's just go with a taller Kyler Kelly or a taller, less explosive JaVale McGee. Alright, so there he is, Rocco's modern world. While there's obviously some concerns with the injuries that Rocco has already piled up at such a young age, and you do wonder whether his frailish sort of body can hold up, I am intrigued by his unique combination of size and length alongside some real mobility and athleticism. And on a team with Luka Doncic as his pick-and-roll partner, I could see Rocco being that dynamic vertical lob threat that can really help open things up for the Lakers in the paint. And while he's offensively limited in comparison to another big man prospect like Hanson Yang, in terms of fit, I actually think I like him better for this particular Lakers team because of the defense and mobility, especially if he can continue to hone that three-point shot of his. But what do you guys think? Who is your favorite second roundish big man prospect in the 2025 NBA draft so far? Let me know in the comments down below, like this video, and most importantly, hit subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. This has been Jonathan Hernandez of the Lakers Legacy Podcast, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace.